In this video, I'm going to talk about this Valorant post by ImpactFuzzy8713 on the Valorant subreddit. Getting out of CS, crouching, spraying habits. How do I do it? I have close to 3k hours in CS and was very good, but this game is so different. I'm currently creeping up to Diamond 1, but my gunplay is just all wrong. I practice this calm aim, and I'm good at it in DM, and recently outfragged a Radiant player with 65% win rate. But when I get into a comp, I just revert to old habits. I crouch, I spray, and I whiff. Valorant simply doesn't work that way. How do I untrain these habits? Any tips? So I first want to go through some of the comments and why some of these comments don't really work. So the first one is like bind your crouch to jump or rebind your crouch to whatever, right? Unbind your crouch for now. A lot of these were happening, right? And for me, well, honestly, for everyone, this doesn't work. This just is not going to work. For most people anyway, it's not going to work. Because as soon as, I think someone says it, as soon as you unbinding crouch doesn't work because the habit will come back whenever you bind it again. That is true. Whenever you bind it again, you aren't treating the symptom. You aren't treating the problem, you're treating the symptom. So you're treating the symptom of pressing crouch rather than the actual thing that's causing you to press crouch. So what you should do is build a new habit, is what this person says. Consciously tell yourself, you strafe before you fire, just a step. That'll help you to stop crouch spraying. Then you can turn that habit into dead zoning. The problem is with this, and this is actually, I think, used in real life for strictly bad habits and turning them into strictly good habits. The problem is with this is that crouch spraying isn't strictly bad and dead zoning isn't strictly good. So you're actually not really replacing anything bad with anything good. You're just kind of replacing one poison for another. You're kind of picking your poison. And especially because as well, I think crouch spraying is more easy to identify than when you're over dead zoning. When you're dead zoning too much, I think it's much easier to see crouch spraying than it is to see dead zoning. So it might even hurt you in the long run to replace dead zoning with crouch spraying as a habit, right? Because there are going to be times where crouching is good and crouch spraying is good, or like peek, crouch, and then uncrouching when you actually like start fighting, or like when you fire a couple of bullets. Like that type of stuff is really, really good to do sometimes in a lot of fights. There are a lot of fights where it's beneficial. So it isn't good to replace things strictly with, like, replace that habit strictly. You need to kind of understand when to use it and use it as like a tool in your arsenal. So how do we get to that point? Okay, so the original post actually answers their own question. I practice this calm aim and I'm good at it in DM. But when I get into a comp, I just revert to old habits. So to me, when I kind of read that together, it implies that DM equals calm and comp equals anxious. Right? So how do we stop being anxious in comp? What allows us to be calm in DM? So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is fear of loss. So a lot of people will have fear of loss in Valorant. So you have the fear of losing the bomb in a bad position. You have the fear of losing your life. You have the fear of losing round, losing the game, losing your rank, losing RR. The fear of loss is quite a prevalent thing, and it stops you from taking risks in Valorant, and it stops you from playing games that you should play or like playing a lot of games because you are fear of losing your rank, fear of losing RR, basically. Another thing as well that is to do with anxiousness in Valorant is ego, right? And ego has this, or anxiousness in general has this like component where you can be excited to prove yourself and anxious as a result, right? And ego is one of those things where you're kind of very, very focused on you and your achievements. So you basically put an expectation on yourself and you're going to be anxious until you meet that expectation. And I feel like this could be something that this person maybe is thinking, right? They used to be good at CS. So they're thinking that I should be better at Valorant. So maybe their ego is taking over a bit in some of these fights. So whether it's from their fear of loss or whether it's from their ego, they are panicking. So how do we fix panic in Valorant? So the first step of panicking less and also improving at Valorant is to remove value from rank. Your rank should be a reflection of how good you are at the game. And as a result, we should probably be trying to get good at the game rather than trying to get a higher rank. You understand what I'm saying? So this will allow us to panic less in games because we will focus way less on the outcome of the game. Therefore, we'll feel like the pressure's off And it also allows us to treat it more like a practice ground for us to practice the things that will allow us to get better at Valorant. So for this person in particular, probably a lot of other people too, practice, calm, aim in ranked. My writing's horrible. I'm very, very sorry. So you can say things to yourself like, for the next 5 games, I'm going to practice calm aim exclusively in all 5 of those games. I'm not going to focus on anything else. Calm aim only. Just to be clear, you not caring about your rank is not a justification to troll rank games because you don't care about your rank anymore. You should be tryharding and making sure you're learning as much as possible or practicing as much as possible in those rank games. And then it becomes about reps, where it's just how much you do it. And the more you do it, the more you're going to retain that. And then the more you retain that, the more it becomes embedded in your muscle memory. And then you don't need to think about it anymore. Okay, so when we're actually practicing things, we want to make sure we come up every single time we're practicing something different. We want to come up with a trigger for that thing we're practicing. So a trigger should be fairly self-explanatory, but for the most part, it's basically when you see something, that is going to be when you are going to start practicing. So in the like event of practicing calm aim, when we see an enemy, that is when we will trigger calm aim. We want to have calm aim. We see an enemy, calm aim. Okay? Other than that, we don't really need to think about it. We just need to think about the trigger. We see an enemy, then we can think about the next step, calm aim. Okay? That's how we're going to try and do this practice. There's some other things that can help you reduce panic, such as controlled breathing or meditation. Unfortunately, I'm not particularly well versed on those subjects, so when I have a bit more experience and research, I might end up touching on those subjects in the future. Although I do imagine you can do things like do some practice breathing, and the trigger being the end of the round. I hope you enjoyed and you found this useful. Subscribe if you want to see more like this. I coach for free on Discord, link in the description, and I will see you in my next one.